So I was just wondering, is anyone tonight, is it your first experience with meditation? No?
Sort of.
Feels like
Sort of.
the first time.
Feels like the first time. Wow. That's a good answer. What happened to the rest of you? Feels like I'm an expert? I'm an expert. Watch out.
Last week was the first time.
Last week was the first time? So what happened? But you may find that sometimes some of the same, some of your same old friends visit you. So the question I was thinking and wondering is, well, one, why we do this practice at all. The other thing is how we do it. And how we do it, I mean, I can give some basic instructions, and that's all good and fine. But tomorrow, when I'm not sitting with you, and you think, okay, well, you know, seems like a good thing to do, let me sit down. Sit down. Okay, you got the sitting down part, good. And not moving, okay. I'm keeping quiet. So all of a sudden then, can I do this? So, how we do meditation is less important how we do it in a group. It actually is really more important how you do it on your own. If you choose meditation as a practice. And that's very connected to the why you do it. Right? Why are we doing this practice anyway? But before I even think about that, what I'm wondering is, from your experience of meditating just tonight, I'm sure some questions of the how came up, right? And an important thing about questions about how, like, am I doing this right, or what do I do with this or that? Or if this happens, you know, what do I do with it? It seems like a real personal experience. It's actually not. Whatever you experience, you can be sure everyone experiences. Okay? Meditation is a great leveler. Right? Everyone's equal in meditation. Right? It's a great equalizer. We all deal with the same crap. It's called being human and dealing with a conditioned mind and a body that suffers. So, if there's one thing that meditation is going to make equal among all people, is that you will encounter suffering. Okay? And I think that's one of the original teachings of the Buddha, was the teaching of dukkha, of suffering, one of the truths that is simply inescapable. Can't avoid it. And meditation is a good way of facing that truth. So, what was your experience, and what question did it bring up for you?
Should we control our breath? Because sometimes I feel like I cannot even breathe and I'm drowning. So I'm wondering, usually it goes away after 10 minutes, but you said that we should slowly prolong our breathing. So sometimes that doesn't happen to me naturally, and I would have to do it intentionally. Should we do it or not? Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing. Like, if your breathing becomes a source of anxiety, then you should switch the focus to, say, the sense of hearing, right? So, because if it's, if that's your part of your relationship with breath. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't focus on breath. It just means if you encounter a real strong, say, obstacle, it's not something you need to fight against. It's something that you accept and say, okay, this is also a cardinal rule for meditation, is that the techniques are flexible and adaptable. It's not like, this is it, you got to do with that, Because that's, again, that's a fight. So we want to let go of the struggle completely. So, yeah, you start with breath, okay? You see how it goes, right? And you investigate. You also know if sometimes perhaps there's like fear or something or aversion to going deeper that sometimes makes physical symptoms come up. You know, often pain is psychosomatic in meditation. So there's a couple of types of pain we talk about. We talk about meditation pain and chronic pain, right? It's a good sort of division. Now, what's the difference between the two? Chronic pain comes up also outside of meditation. Like if you have some breathing problem, then you'll also experience it outside of meditation. And if you have a back problem, then you'll also experience it outside of meditation. But if for some strange reason it only comes up during meditation, then there's another reason it's coming up, right? And that's something to investigate and to look at. But if you ever, like this thing with breathing comes up, then yeah, you respect that. So, in short, you're not forcing the breath, okay?
Numbness in the feet, like from the knee down. Is that normal after time? Does it pass?
You mean it's asleep? Like it's like...
Numb, like they fall asleep, both legs, like from the knee down.
Yeah, that often happens because of, say, the way we're bending our legs. You know? So, with a simple solution is to have an extra pillow. It should be higher. The higher you are, the less likely your legs will fall asleep. Right? It's just allowing more, you know, it's opening it a little bit. Because if you're right on the ground, then what happens is like, you know, it's more scrunched. So you're just like opening it a bit. So that's what you should do. And if it does happen, don't panic. Because believe me, I mean, after when you open your legs, it probably takes 30 seconds for you to feel again. But they're simply preventative measures. Yeah, that's what I would do.
I have a less physical question, more about the mind. During the walking meditation, it was very awkward to me because I was very aware of other people outside of the group, and kind of feels like a zombie or cultist just walking with your gaze down low. So my question is whether that's something to confront, to sort of try to throw myself into the deep end, take that as a goal, to confront that, or to try to gradually start in places with less outside stimuli or other people and build up from that.
Number 2. Number 2. Yeah, we're not trying to make any point, or, you know, we're not trying to prove anything, or, you know, we're not trying to, again, that like, should I confront it? It's kind of like with the breath. I mean, there's no fight. There's no battle to fight here. Like, I'm not having to overcome self-consciousness. I've got to deal with people looking at me and feeling self-conscious. That's, you know, no. I mean, it's just skillful that you deal with, the practice is difficult enough. But we don't need to add extra difficulty, which is, you know, the discomfort of, say, feeling odd or whatever, because that's just a natural mental reaction. So in the same way that I would say, you know, should I just accept sounds, loud sounds, if I'm, you know, choosing to meditate at a busy intersection? Like, well, so meditate somewhere else. You know, I mean, meditate somewhere else. In the beginning, I mean, also Dogen, he's the 13th century Japanese master. He wrote very specifically, he was writing to monks. He set up, like, how your room should be, and, you know, make sure there are no drafts. It shouldn't be too cold, shouldn't be too warm, shouldn't be too dark, shouldn't be too bright, should, you know, be comfortable but not too luxurious. All these sort of middle way things, just so that you can, you know, feel comfortable and then deal with the real work. Now, as we become more, I think, experienced, we can open it up to include more stimuli. But I think in the initial training, there's enough to deal with without inviting more.
So more gradual.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, walk in your backyard if you have one, or walk, like, in your house.
Or in Tel-Aviv, so not so much.
So, I don't know. I mean, any room you can take, or your roof, or something. But, yeah, it's, I mean, it's called skillful means. It's just being like skillful with the process. So, yeah.
Thank you.
In your experience, in terms of training the mind, do you find sitting meditation long-term different than walking meditation?
Do I find different? No. Long-term, no. Short-term, yes. So, short-term, yeah, there's a much greater focus you can get with sitting meditation, right? And because there's less going on, basically. Sorry?
Less input?
Yeah. Less outer things to deal with, basically. You know. But, so it's good, that's a more basic practice for strengthening your concentration. Right? But then again, it's like it's pretty much an extension of the question we just had, right? Where the more you establish your concentration, the more it can open up to include, you know. So I think of it sort of as a lens that is very focused, or like a laser beam, very focused, and then you can open it so that it includes more in that, you know, frame. So initially you're having to limit it in order to strengthen that. Light beam is very strong, you need to strengthen that, right? So to know where to look and when. But then as you can open it more, all right, it's the same amount of light, but it's actually just letting in more stimuli with the same kind of present mind. Right? So, yeah, but that takes establishing or practice over time. Now, I also think that we shouldn't, the other side is, we shouldn't have like preferences. Okay, so there can be an attachment some people have to sitting meditation as the real thing. No, it's just part of the mind training, and it's good to step up and walk in order to increase flexibility. I don't mean physical, I mean mental flexibility of the practice. So to include more postures, right? And you accept that it's a different focus. It's not as, you know, sharp a focus. It's a more open and kind of a softer, it's a gentler focus. And I think that's helpful too, is to not feel like in this mindful awareness we need to laser beam. No. Or just so serious. It can be more gentle and open and accepting all the sights and sounds that you do experience in walking. Same principle. I don't need to add anything to it. Okay.
The reason I'm asking, especially for the long term, is because let's say I practiced meditation for 3 years, and I was very attached to my sitting meditation. But then, and I used to sit about an hour per day, and then I started developing chronic pain, which in the past year only allows me to sit maybe 15 minutes. And for the past year, I mostly do walking meditation. And I already have an established walking meditation routine for about a year now. And I'm still in a way very attached to sitting meditation. So I guess that also the intention was to probably for relief in terms of long-term knowing if it's
Yeah.
sort of pointing to the same direction.
Oh, it is. But I want to ask you, do you do lying down? Are you able to lie down without pain?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, but the thing is that I fall asleep.
Okay.
And that's like I try that. By the way, this is how I fall asleep every night.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That's good.
Yeah, every night I meditate, sleeping, lying down, and I fall asleep within 5 to 10 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah.
But what if you do it?
Yeah, but if I do it like not in bed, I would fall asleep.
if you do it in the middle of the day, like, hey, you know, I just like, middle of the day.
Probably I'll but I'll try again.
So again, playing around with different postures. Standing meditation also. So you're not actually walking, but the posture is standing and you can actually close your eyes. Okay? Standing is also posture that was taught by the Buddha. So
do that with the walking meditation actually.
yeah, you stop.
Yeah, I stop.
Okay.
For like 2-3 minutes to scan the body and.
Yeah. So why don't you try standing for like half an hour? You know? No, really, like actually taking the amount of time that you would take in sitting and doing it as standing. So that you know you won't have the pain, but you have the stillness. So finding that way.
9/11.
Oh, it's 9/11. So I was told at 9/11 there's an eclipse happening. Full eclipse. Last time it happened, I think 1917 or 18, in that trajectory in America, in that one place where everyone can see it right now. So, and I was told that some Buddhist people said that everybody should meditate during this minute.
Okay.
So you know what? 1 minute, total eclipse, whatever.
It's 9:12. I don't want your moment.
What's a minute between Buddhists? Ah. So I hope that brought peace on earth. Yeah, the moon actually in Buddhism, especially Japanese Buddhism, is a very important and potent, a powerful symbol. And it's the symbol of the enlightened mind, the moon, and the full moon. Now, the reason it's chosen as a symbol, and in Japan they have all these places for moon gazing, where they actually just go outside and, like you meet friends to do what? To gaze at the moon. Like that's the activity, right? It's better than drinking at the pub, I guess, but they probably do that after. Moon gazing, or before. No, they also do it for snow. There's also snow gazing. They're like special bridges where you go stand on the bridge and it's for snow gazing. I remember being at this temple and there's like a moon gazing bridge. It's like, wow, they built a bridge to stand on and look at the moon. Okay? That's the special. Now, why is the moon so important and why the symbol? Because it waxes and wanes. It waxes and wanes. The moon becomes bigger and fuller and disappears completely, and then it reappears like your enlightened mind. Okay? Now, the truth is, the moon's not disappearing, is it? We just don't see it. Alright? We just don't see it. Okay? But the full moon is always there. So the faith in Japanese Buddhism and in Mahayana Buddhism is that your enlightened nature and your Buddha nature is always there. Just most of the time you don't see it. That doesn't mean it's not there. Okay? And when you look, you'll start to see it appears, and actually at moments can become full, But as soon as you start getting attached to it, it starts getting smaller and disappears. Okay? And then when you start to despair that you think, I'm not enlightened at all, I'm so far from it, it starts to appear. Okay? Not in your control. Your enlightened mind does not appear because you wish it to. It just happens. Okay? But you'll only notice it if you look. So the practice is to look and to have faith or trust in the nature of your own mind. So even when the moon is not there, or let's say it's covered by clouds, you just know it's there. And that keeps you practicing. So why do we practice? Because we have faith in our own mind. That's why we practice. Okay, and you know that you have an enlightened nature, and even if that's just a gesture of faith for you, it keeps you going when it seems that it's just a dark night. Okay, in that moon, as we see with this, interestingly, like I never thought about on this day, which makes me think about it, that the moon actually has a greater force than what we think is so strong, the sun. It can block out the sun totally and make the world nice and cool and in shade. And remember, shade or shadow in Buddhism also is a nice thing. It's called taking refuge or shelter. One of the original symbols of the Buddha, before any statues came up, was an umbrella. Okay, that was an original symbol for the Buddha. Because an umbrella is a very important tool in the Far East, well, all over the world, because it had a dual purpose of sheltering you from the rain, but also from the sun. Have you ever seen some Asians walking around here with like umbrellas? Mm-hmm. Right? That comes back. That goes way back. In the Buddhist time, they held umbrellas. Why? For shade, for shadow, for moon shadow. Okay, like the moon casting shadow on the sun, the moon blocking the sun. Why? That's an act of compassion, so we won't be blinded and burnt. Okay, so the shadow, the shelter that the Buddha gives is an act of compassion, so we won't get burned by our dukkha, our suffering all the time. So that's the other element of the moon. Is your enlightened mind, even when you don't know it's there, or you don't see it, really, the trust in mind, and there's a famous poem called Trust in Mind, way back from the 3rd century. The third Zen ancestor wrote this poem called Trust in Mind. What is it? What am I trusting? Right? What am I trusting? That the nature of my mind is Buddha. Okay? And it's not something, it's not another thought. And it's not even a belief, like in terms of an idea. It just keeps us going. You know? That's what gets you to sit. Okay? Like if I tell you, sit down, don't move, shut up, that's not going to motivate you. What's going to motivate you is trust in your own mind that when you do sit, you're engaging in an enlightened practice of realizing your true nature. That's a long sentence, but it's just trust in mind. I can do this, my mind. I'm doing this in order to realize my true nature. I'm not doing this in order to become something else or to create a new me. I'm doing this in order to cut through the crap and realize what I have been all along. And it's not these conditioned thoughts, because those conditioned thoughts are so transient and conditioned. Who told you you're like this anyway? And why do you believe it? One of the basic, commands of meditation is don't believe everything you think. Okay? Really? If you believed everything you think, disaster. Okay? I mean, really. So, when we sit and we notice the flow of thoughts that will not stop, what we are noticing is a truth called impermanence. And if your thoughts themselves are impermanent, then who are you? Who is the true you? It's that moon. Okay? You're the moon. Right? Sometimes invisible and sometimes full. And you've all had full moon moments, right? Where it's just a moment of pure amazement and being. Okay? And you're just aware. Okay? It's full of light. But it's not blinding light. It's not light that's going to burn you like the sun. Okay? It's the soft light. It's gentle. Okay? That's the compassion. It's the light of compassion and kindness. So, and then it passes. What happened to that great experience? Well, in memory we want to return to it, but you can't. Because even just the thought and the memory of it creates another obstacle, creates an expectation of what I'm going to find. And remember, every time you look at the moon, and this is one of the truths of the moon, and this is why moon gazing is so popular, every time you look at it, even every full moon, it's a new moon. It's a different moon, right? Have you ever seen the same full moon twice? I mean, come on. It's always different every time you see it. So anytime you have an awakening experience, it's, you know, a new reality. It's a new you. And in fact, anytime you really look, you're seeing something totally new. So where do these old ideas hold such force? Why are they so strong, these old ideas of who and what we are? This is where we have to take our practice a little more seriously, to look. Okay? And really, the meditation practice is just that persistent. Look and look again. Look and look again. Okay? Engage with your experience. The instructions are simple and clear. What's happening now? Okay. What are you experiencing now? Without the commentary. Okay? Now, this is where ultimately the walking and the sitting are the same, because it's about selfless awareness. And if you have selfless awareness, and what does that mean, selfless awareness? Awareness that's not filtered through all of my ideas and expectations and sense of self. So it's awareness that, you know, is just appreciating and accepting what is. It's the thusness. Okay? Reality as it is, not as I want it to be. What does it mean, as I want it to be? As it accords or reinforces my sense of self. Right? Does this accord, meaning agree with my expectations? And does it strengthen who I think I am? Or does it threaten who I think I am? So we have the fight or flight, or, you know, we have aversion or desire. And if it strengthens it, then yeah, I want it. I want to be around people like me. I want to have environments that are pleasing to me, that give me a sense of me. And aversion is, oh, this threatens my sense of self, so I got to get rid of it in some way, or avoid it, or ignore it, or deny it. All right. Meditation approach is the middle way between denial and attachment. It's just observing and seeing what is for what it is, not me. Okay? It's all not me. And if it's all not me, because the truth is, who am I anyway? So if it's all not me, then there's no threat and there's no, like, desire. There just is. Alright. So that's the meditative non-self-awareness. Non-self-awareness. Okay? And that can happen and be a practice in everything we do. From eating an apple, to walking, to driving your car, to whatever. Right? And that is simply, you know, moon mind. Yeah.
So often when I notice my sensations, emotions in the body, what I see is a mix of frustration, fear, tension, grief, etc. So is that selfless? No.
What's your relationship to those thoughts? You see, are you able to observe those thoughts with the same sense of acceptance, non-attachment or non-aversion, as you say, you know, hear somebody in the kitchen or hear a car go by? Can you observe your thoughts with the same sense of non-attachment and non-fear that you observe other sensory input? If you see your thought, your thinking mind, as one of the senses, okay, why do you give it so much priority? Why are your thoughts? It's in the body.
Quite intense. So
yeah.
What I'm saying is, yes, I realize, you know, like being a witness of this thing is sort of being not safe. But
yeah.
In the moment, there's a lot of aversion. I want it to go away.
Yeah.
Although I'm saying, okay, that's what's happening. you
Okay.
know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And again, there's a way to get out of the mental cycle. And the way to get out of that mental, you know, what are those rats and mice going? Treadmill. On the treadmill? No, it's not a treadmill. It's a wheel. You know that those mice
Hamster
are on?
wheel?
What's that?
Hamster wheel?
Hamster wheel. Is it a hamster wheel?
Mm.
Whatever, you know what I'm
People
talking
know.
about. Right? How do you get off that wheel of always, you know, mind looking at mind, thinking about it and everything? It seems like it's sort of a closed circuit in a sense, right? This is where the physicality, what do you do with it? You're not going to get out of thoughts by thoughts. Thoughts will not help you get out of thoughts. Okay? They may help you develop ideas. So yeah, I'm going to think about what I'm thinking about. Great. Then you'll develop those thoughts. But it's still within that closed circuit of thoughts, of thinking. Our practice here is that the awareness is not another thought. Okay? The awareness here is not simply having perspective on it by coming up to good ideas of, oh yeah, this anger is from whatever experience and, you know, I don't know. Yeah. So that's the psychological approach. It can be very helpful for clarity of thoughts, but it's still within the closed circuit of thinking. What is the practice offering us in terms of our awareness? The awareness is not just a thinking awareness. Remember, it's a body awareness. You want to get out of thinking mind? Why do we focus on the breath in the belly and not in the nostrils? Because the nostrils are too close to the brain. The belly is closer to the ground. And we want to be more connected to a stability, a sense of, you know, being stable in our bodies and minds, and feeling that unity between body and mind. Whereas if I'm just, thoughts, nostril, what do? Closed circuit. Go down. Okay? Go down to your breathing. Instead of, you know, how do you get out of, how do you deal with difficult thoughts that seem incessant, meaning they're just not stopping? Physical. You remember the physicality of the breath, right? This is where the breathing has to be really a stable samadhi, right? The samadhi of breathing, meaning the samadhi comes from calm concentration. And what is samadhi? It's a peace and content in the practice. It's a stable mind, a peaceful mind, with all the stuff going on, because you are maintaining concentration on the breath. So, what do you do with thoughts? Nothing. You don't do anything with your thoughts. You breathe with them. You go down and you place your concentration more strongly with the breath. Now, the Buddha taught about different ways to deal with thoughts. And some distracting thoughts are really difficult thoughts. He even said, you know what? And it's like a wrestler. He gave this metaphor of like a wrestler who's like pushing the thought away. That's like the last resort. The last resort for like really, really terrifying thoughts is to physically, meaning mentally, say, out of here. Okay? But that's like when you're dealing with really, really difficult and recurring things, which is, you know, sometimes you just gotta say like, no. Okay? But in general, what we're saying is not no or yes. We're just saying, so be it. Okay? So be it. This is it. Right? This is it. I'm not going to resist, I'm not going to like you, I'm not going to dislike you. And if I do like you or I do dislike you, I see that too. But I'm going to resist the temptation of thinking about my thoughts. Because that just leads to endless, you know, self. So what do? Go down, stomach. If it's a hard time cultivating the concentration, then there are certain even just more technical, you could say, supports. One of them is counting the breath from 1 to 10. And, you know, you go through 1 to 10. So, and again, what I want to emphasize is that these techniques are flexible. There may be a time where you sit down and you're like, I want to do anything but meditate. Well, that's when you should. So you sit down, and if your mind is really, really, really distracted, then maybe it's time to do more basic, like counting the breath from 1 to 10. You notice that the mind starts calming down, you let go of the counting. You notice it becomes very, very focused, you let go of the breath. Okay? And you just have present mind awareness. But then you notice you're starting to get involved with thoughts, time to get back to the breath. You notice that it's becoming really obsessive, time to count. That can happen in the same session, but you need to know what your mind is doing. Keep it physical, in short. Well, 9:30. Is there one question that someone didn't ask that they feel like you'll regret if you don't? Good. I'll stay here a few minutes if someone has something they want to ask and you're shy. So there's one thing I wanted to read tonight about meditation. And I'm just going to read one sentence to you to end our session tonight. And it was from the Buddha's basic instructions from the Anapanasati, the mindfulness of breathing, where he gave his first sort of real clear instructions on what to do with the mind in breathing meditation. Okay, and it's a sutra of mindfulness of breathing. Now, I'm not going to read the techniques because, that's pretty much what we went through when we teach and stuff. But I just want to read the line of introduction, which to me is a good reminder. And I'll tell you why. Okay, so I've heard that on one occasion, the Blessed One was staying at Savatthi in the Eastern Monastery. Now, on that occasion, the Blessed One was seated in the open air, surrounded by the community of monks. Surveying the silent community of monks, he addressed them. Monks, I am content with this practice. I am content at heart with this practice. So arouse even more intense persistence for attaining this. Now, I like that a lot, that introduction, because it's so basic and it's actually so human. Like, you know what? We're not involved in a life and death struggle here. I am really content with this practice. I've tried a lot of things, and this is good. Okay, this is good. In fact, I'm so content. I'm content at heart with it, and you got to trust me on this. It's worthwhile. That's basically what he was saying. Take my word for it. I'm not just content. I'm content at heart with this. Like, this is good. Right? Now, that's all we need to know. All the experience and everything else, we just need to trust, okay, you know what? It made him happy. It's worth trying. And more than just worth trying, it's worth trying really hard. And that's the other thing. To find true content, I have to say, takes a lot of work. All right? But not only is there no other way, but it's totally worth it. So, let's follow this path together. We're going to finish with 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds. Silence. And a invitation that we will want to find gratitude for being offered a practice that can open our hearts and minds to true content. And may we take our lives and our practice in our own hands. So that we may find true peace and content and be a benefit to all others. path of peace.